Welcome to another episode of Oodles of Broodles. I'm kind of dispensing with the silliness today, and the reason is because I want to talk about Steve Albini. As you know, recording engineer, member of the bands Big Black and Shellac, passed away on May 7th, and Steve Albini throughout the years had a huge impact on the way I listen to music, the way I think about music. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and kind of highlight some of the albums that either he played on or that he recorded or both. I first found out about Steve Albini through Nirvana's In Utero album, which was released in 1993. Obviously, he was the recording engineer on that album. I first listened to Big Black. I was not ready for that shit. I picked up a copy of Songs About Fucking, which was released on Touch and Go Records. And yeah, it was so abrasive, so caustic. Teenage Josh was not ready for it at the time. I came around to Big Black eventually, but we'll get to that later. I want to talk about the first kind of touchstone beyond In Utero as far as Steve Albini goes. That album would be Shellac at Action Park. This was released in 1994 on Touch and Go. And this was a much easier pill for me to swallow as compared to Big Black. I mean, some people call these guys math rock, some call them noise rock. Whatever the case may be, I fell in love with this immediately after I put it on. I think I bought this at, there was a record store in Des Moines called People's Music that was just kind of up the street from me. I could walk there pretty easily. And picked this up, brought it home after I think I read a review of the album and some magazine. I'm getting old, guys. My memory of the 90s is getting fuzzier by the day. So picked this up, brought it home, and just fell in love with it immediately. It's abrasive, yet it's musical, but it's also catchy, but it's also heavy. It's just a fantastic album. And Shellac's entire discography is amazing. Unfortunately, Steve Albini passed away just a week before Shellac's new album, To All Trains, was to be released. And I have a copy of it in my hands, but unfortunately I can't bring myself to listen to it yet. I think I'm going to get emotional listening to it. And I know some people think it's silly to get emotional over the deaths of, famous people. But, when somebody affects your life, it's a big deal. I mean, like I said, he changed the way I listened to and thought about music, and Shellac's at Action Park definitely played a hand in that. I said it earlier that I finally came around to Big Black, and I actually, it's funny, but I actually prefer their first album, Atomizer, which is way more abrasive than Songs About Fucking, in my opinion. But if you're a CD maniac like I am, you can find Atomizer on this compilation, The Rich Man's 8-track tape. This came out on Touch and Go, but Atomizer was originally released in 1986 on Homestead Records. This is a compilation that's been remastered, and it's got some EP tracks on it as well. Again, it's just abrasive, caustic, ugly. Of course, Big Black is known for having used a drum machine, and that kind of gives it an industrial vibe to it as well. Albini's guitar playing is just so gnarly on this. I just love it. His vocals also gnarly as heck. It's like somewhere between punk rock and industrial. It's somewhere in between those two. Big Black's just kind of its own thing, super hard to categorize. Listening to Big Black kind of prepared me to get into harsh noise and industrial and all these different things. So much fucking respect to Big Black, and especially their first album, Atomizer. It's also available on vinyl through Touch and Go as just a standalone, and of course all the EPs are available on vinyl as well. I also wanted to talk about a few albums that he recorded, not just ones that he played on. So up first, I've got to talk about the Jesus Lizard's Liar. This was the first Jesus Lizard album I bought, and oddly enough, I heard of Jesus Lizard because they released a split single with Nirvana. Nirvana's track on there was Oh the Guilt. Jesus Lizard's track was Puss from this album. That came out in 1993, which was the same year that In Utero came out. Liar was actually released in 1992 on Touch and Go Records. And if you've never heard the Jesus Lizard, man, they are the epitome of noise rock. And Steve Albini just made them sound so amazing by just making them sound like them. You know, he did not really interfere when he was recording a band. He was basically, you know, treated as he was there to do a service and capture the band how they actually were, not try to alter them or fuck with them or, you know, tell them how to play or write their songs, things like that. And I've always respected the hell out of that. And, you know, this is one of my favorite albums that he produced. I know a lot of people are going to say Goat is the best Jesus Lizard album. I figured everybody's going to talk about that one that does a video like this or writes an article. So I wanted to talk about Liar. It's very dark, very heavy, very ugly, very nasty, very abrasive. It's just everything that noise rock should be in one nice, tidy little package. I feel like I can't talk about Steve Albini without also talking about Zenigeva, so the next album I wanted to talk about was Naiha by Zenigeva. If you're not familiar, Zenigeva is a Japanese band fronted by KK Null, who does a lot of cool noise stuff. These guys, they're kind of noise rock, kind of metal, kind of hardcore, kind of sludge. They're kind of all over the place, but they're amazing. They're oppressively heavy and abrasive. He recorded a bunch of their stuff, but this is one of my favorites. He also played guitar on the song Angel, so well worth checking out, not only for his recording skills, but for his guitar on that album. And he also actually toured Japan with Zenigeva, and there's a web series on YouTube called Show Us Your Junk. I can't remember who produces it, but I will link it in the description box. And one of the episodes is Steve Albini giving a tour of Electrical Audio, and he talks about going to Japan to play with Zenigeva and about the crappy guitar pedal he bought in Japan and stuff like that. So very cool. Yeah, this is one of my favorite Zenigeva releases. It's actually, I think it's actually technically an EP. It's been re-released here recently. I think it came out on Cold Spring as a re-release, which also includes a live album called All Right You Little Bastards. It's re-released under the title Maximum Implosion. So if you can't find an OG copy of Naiha, well worth probably getting Maximum Implosion for that live stuff. Zenigeva, an amazing band, and Steve Albini obviously had a great relationship with these guys. I wouldn't call him, you know, a metal producer per se, but the metal albums he did record were amazing. The metal album he recorded that I wanted to talk about today was High on Fire's Blessed Black Wings. This is my absolute favorite High on Fire album. I love these guys. I've been down with them since day one practically. And this album's the best they've ever sounded. It's dark, it's heavy. You know, they really brought out their inner Motorhead on this one. Just a great album that's got great songs, and, you know, Steve Albini made them sound like $1,000,000, as he did with everything he recorded, in my opinion, or at least all the albums he recorded that I've heard. This kind of just goes to show that he could record pretty much any genre. You know, he had the alternative rock of bands like Nirvana, or, you know, artists like PJ Harvey. He did stuff like Zenigeva, which is, you know, all over the place. Is it noise rock? Is it hardcore? Is it, I don't even know. Of course, he recorded his own bands and made that all sound amazing. Totally gnarly shit like Jesus Lizard. The dude could record anything. I mean, you know, he recorded Joanna Newsom albums and stuff like that. So, but I think this really speaks to, you know, the diversity of what he was able to do in the studio and make any band sound amazing. One of the best albums they ever recorded, one of the best sounding albums they ever recorded, courtesy Mr. Steve Albini. So guys, that wraps it up. Again, just wanted to talk a little bit about albums that Mr. Albini had recorded and albums that he played on, and just kind of the influence he had on me. You know, like I said, listening to his early music got me ready for noise and, you know, bands like Melt Banana and all kinds of crazy shit that I listen to now. I really think that listening to Big Black and Shellac back in the day, as well as, you know, bands that he recorded like the Jesus Lizard back in the 90s, really planted the seeds for me to kind of get into a lot of crazy shit. I appreciate everything you did for us. I appreciate the albums you recorded, the bands you played in. I was grateful to get to see Shellac live in Portland last year, so thank you for everything. I'll see you in Valhalla, brother. Peace.